what the president has done about policing, about border supervision of the Nigerian-Niger border. It's an extensive border, no doubt about that. It could be intimidating. You could start asking yourself, what am I going to do? Am I going to build a fence like Trump contemplated with the American-Mexico border and all that sort of things? But you see, the difference is that while a Trump at least proposed a solution and he worked at it, the Nigerian leader has given up even before it starts. So we're not going to get anything up until 2023. Maybe if we have somebody who has a different idea, electronics, policing, some of other innovations that might have been used in other parts of the world, to say, okay, we can in fact do something. But with the kind of disposition that the president has, nothing is going to happen until he leaves this administration.
All right.
He doesn't believe that.
Quickly also share your thoughts on one of the stories here from the Financial Times saying Nigeria at risk of becoming a failed state. I saw a lot of comments with regards to that story on social media yesterday, and none of them seems very excited about a story like that. Some of them, say we're, already late with such a headline. What are your thoughts?
The indications are there that Nigeria has not failed yet, but there are a whole lot of boxes that we have ticked towards being a failed state. One of it is the level of insecurity in this country. Kidnaps and all that kind of, all those stuff are all over the whole place. So where you have a nation where bandits can come into a school and carry away 300 students, and the next thing, there are issues of, oh, we paid ransom, we did not pay ransom. You are not even sure whether who is lying or who is not lying. Those are all some of the major boxes that we are ticking. We have a country that cannot, that's struggling to pay its own bills. We all know what percentage of our revenue goes into servicing debt every year. So we are on that teters, and we can easily flip to the other side of being a failed state if we don't do things that are significant. For example, you can see Niger-Nigeria border. If terrorists are coming in from the Sahel through Niger, the president is saying, there's nothing I can do about it.
All right.
Okay.
Let's see what we can do with the Nation newspaper now. The big one here is federal government intensifies push for COVID-19 vaccine. Ministers, there will be no lockdown, travel ban not likely. Let's start with that, Mr. Olujede. The travel ban not likely. Are you worried?
I am worried about that pronouncement, and that is because even countries who have stronger affiliation with the UK, some of the European countries, have already closed their borders to the UK because of this strain of virus. Now here we are, a country that has the healthcare system is not really there. If we have a major crisis now, it will fail. We're not sure where we are on the line to vaccine. We don't know when we're going to get vaccine. So a country like ours needs to err on the side of caution. There's nothing wrong in shutting down the borders to the UK, and then after you review the situation over some time, you can lift it again. I don't think that the reason Nigeria is not shutting its borders to the UK is because we cannot shut it. I think it must be for some selfish reason.
Yeah, but that point is already countered, don't you think? Because we seem to already have the strain of virus for which borders have been shut against the UK in Nigeria since August. So shutting down or banning travel at this point, isn't it mute already?
I don't think so. I don't think it is mute. And that is exactly what I'm saying. You can shut down and use that period to do a quick review rather than leave it open. If a new strain is found, what makes you think there could not be two other strains that have also evolved from the original strain? There's no way for us to know. So one strain has been identified. There could be one or two other strains that have not been identified. So the right thing, in my opinion, is at least stop it temporarily, review the situation, and then open it if there is need to open it, rather than saying we can. Do you know how many Nigerians are in the UK and they are all going to come into Nigeria during this period? I'm not advocating that you should shut the people out of their own country. I'm only saying because of our peculiar situation, we should look at things with more caution than we are doing right now.
All right. Yesterday we talked about, I need to highlight this headline. This is from the Palace in Delta. It said, Olu of Warri not dead, but indisposed, on easy calm in city. Yesterday, I think the Sun reported his demise from COVID-19, but this morning, I saw the story yesterday actually, the Palace coming up to say he is not dead, but indisposed, whatever that means, we don't know. There doesn't seem to be much of a clarification from that statement. And of course, expectedly, there is an uneasy calm in the city because he is such a big figure in that area. I'm not sure
exactly what indisposed means. I'm not expecting the Palace to immediately, say that he's
there has to be something. Yes. Okay. Let's see. Passengers of Abuja-bound bus abducted in Edo. That story is already captured, the Third Mainland Bridge. There is another one on the front page of the Nation newspaper. Just above that screamer, we have bandits kill 7, kidnap 3 headers in Kaduna. DSS issued security alert. I saw that as well yesterday. More headlines. Varsity teachers get 2-month salary arrears. Capital Market put public offers online. Over to you now. Let's talk a bit about the... okay, you take your pick and then add to it the alert, the security alert by the DSS.
Okay, I'm just going to put two or three of those stories together. There is the abduction at Edo of Abuja-bound person. Yeah. There is the killing in Kaduna, killing of 7. Then we can put that together with a warning from the DSS about possible insecurity around this violence, actually, around this season. Let's layer those 3 stories on top of the comments by the FT that Nigeria might be a failed state. Just imagine those 3 stories. People on Abuja-bound bus kidnapped somewhere on their way. And killings in Kaduna have not stopped till now. It has not stopped. At the same time, we are being warned not to gather, to avoid any gathering around this period because some people might detonate bombs at those gatherings. This should be things of very deep concern for us. When states fail, it's not as if there is a declaration over the media one day that, oh, this state has now finally failed. No, states fail day by day, month by month, by things they do or things they do not do. Right. We are beginning to walk towards that direction, and we need to make a detour.
It will be great also that we, at some point, get a proper definition of what bandits are. If these people, if they continue to kill Nigerians in dozens and hundreds without any signs that they are stealing anything in particular, I don't know if we can still continue to call them bandits.
There was actually a time on Plus Politics, we had this conversation, and I went on Twitter, even though I have barely how many persons following me, I put a thought there that, why are we reclassifying people we know to be terrorists? We're now painting a picture. Any crime that is committed, we now say it is bandits. Boko Haram abduct students, we say it is bandits. People kidnap people, we say it is bandits. I mean, why can't we, what are we afraid of in really classifying things exactly the way that they are? So
Mr. Olojide, quickly speak on that before we move to the punch. Do we need...
I'm not sure exactly if it makes any difference. Let's say we change the definition of bandits and say they are now terrorists. So what changed? We still have to see them as security threat and deal with the criminality for what it is. The ones that we have declared as terrorists in the Northeast, how has that changed the landscape? Not much, not much. Insecurity, let's deal with it for the criminality it represents.
All right. Let's move to the Punch newspapers now. There's something about the Malabu oil, well, scam. I think I can still call it that. And, of course, the court cases that have been going back and forth about it. It says the Abacha's family dossed the federal government and others over bid to reclaim Malabu. Also, we negotiated Kankara schoolboys' release through ex-bandits, says the governor. DSS warns of plot to bomb churches and mosques and others. We also have on the Punch this morning, Buhari under fire, says only God can police Nigeria-Niger border. A statement from Buhari.
Yeah, that part about the DSS bombing, there seemed to, alert. There seems to be more clarification. If you could take that again, please.
Okay, it simply says, DSS warns of plot to bomb churches, mosques, and others on the Punch.
Yes.
All right, statement from Buhari as Commander-in-Chief, shocking, says the PDP, and that's with regards to the Nigeria-Niger border. The president using God as a cover-up for his failure, says Northern Can. We also have 10 arrested for attacking Lagos task force officials, 96 motorcycles seized. And also 20 killed on Lokoja-Abuja highway and Oshun road crashes. We also have here police claim ignorance as gunmen kidnap many travelers in Edo State. We spoke about that earlier. Mr. Olojide, let's start with the Malabu conversation. It's been ongoing for many, many years, I think since maybe 1998. How do you see these things turning out? What do you think is still going on?
It's still going on because of the principle that I involved in it. If this was a case of someone that stole goats in the marketplace, by now the guy would be in jail. But when big Nigerians are involved in cases like this, it could drag and drag and drag and drag. The lesson for me, and this is not the only case, the Malabu oil, even the Halliburton scandal on which some people have been jailed in other countries that was never really concluded in Nigeria. There are several, and they've been there for like 2 decades. Some have been there for like 2 decades. For 7 years, we've been trying to prosecute Maina. We've been trying to repatriate or extradite the former minister of petroleum for 5 years now.
Yes.
Now, the message in that is that when people already have access to huge resources, our system is not yet strong enough to bring them to justice. Those cases stay in the court system forever and ever. And by the time they are even concluded, it may be too late. There may be nothing to recover for the nation anyway. We need to change our approach to this corruption issue. There have been people who mentioned that we probably need special courts to look at this kind of case. That's the possibility. So that it doesn't stay for 20 years in the court system. Number two is we need to shift the focus from trying to recover money or trying to prosecute people after they have stolen our commonwealth. We need to put more emphasis on prevention. Make it extremely difficult for individuals to steal our commonwealth. If we do that, we will stop a whole lot of this and stop wasting time, 20 years on the court, trying to prosecute the unprosecutable.
Yes. All right. Quickly, I just want him to. There's something that is also on the Punch, very tiny. There it says Lagosians may go to jail for failing to wear a mask. Do you think we should get to that level of strictness with, of course, enforcing COVID-19 protocols?
We need to. We need to. It's the only enforcement is the only language our people understand, especially in matters like this. So if we see this as a public health situation, and there are laws in the land under which people could be prosecuted. So anybody found flouting the others, let's go through the law, the legal process. And if jail is what the law says, then let them go to jail. Right, we cannot afford to mess with the health of the public. You're not, because you're not just endangering yourself, you're also endangering other members of the public. So whatever the law says under those circumstances, let offenders face that law. If that is the only thing that will shape us up,
All right, let's quickly look at The Guardian, and then there is this thing on The Punch. I'd like you, in 30 seconds, if you please, so we can take on The Guardian. SIM NIN linkage applicants stranded as NIMC website crashes. There's been a lot of conversation around that. We know that at some point they have to close their office. What's your thinking on this entire rush situation?
It was embarrassing, considering the fact that the minister and the NCC guy, these are well-educated, these are PhD holders, who, in my opinion, should have considered all the variables. You have on one side 200 million lines. On the other side, you have 46 million national identification number. You should know that if you put a 2 weeks deadline, though I learned that has now been extended, if you put such a 2 weeks deadline for 46 to catch up with 200 million, there's going to be a problem. It doesn't. You don't have to open any books to understand that. So the fact that we didn't think through this, we didn't think through the issue of the COVID implication. I saw the crowd at the Keja office of NIN before it was finally shut down. And it was embarrassing that we did not think about that.
All right,
yeah.
We're out of time. Thank you very much, as always, for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
All right. Just because I mentioned it, let me just go ahead and read some of the headlines. 43 vessels stuck in Lagos waters. There are 3 riders to that story as port congestion worsens. Cost of shipping containers rise 600%. That's it on your screen there. And we have the no social distancing, all about the NIM, NIM, National Identity Number. That's the crowd for you on the front page of The Guardian. For me, let me quickly say this. Yeah. I am in full support of the enforcement of face mask use, because we've come to the point where people's mindset has, oh, we have a vaccine. Why should I bother? You know, we have to compel people where we can to make sure that they wear their face masks.
I completely agree. If we have to get to that stage just to ensure that we protect ourselves and we stay alive, then it's completely fine. Also, one thing I would say is also important is that the enforcers must also lead by example. It's insane seeing police officers stopping people for not wearing face masks, while the police officers are also not wearing face masks. Because I've seen that, you know, on Twitter a few times.
It can only be in Nigeria. Even when they're wearing it, it's underneath their nostrils.
Makes absolutely no sense.
You don't understand why that is the case.
Yes.
All right, we go on a break now. And when we come back, we'll be looking at the transistor, how it came about. Today, there was a demonstration. We're talking about it. And, of course, the assassination of a renowned politician and foremost human rights activist, lawyer, however you want to classify him, a phenomenal man, Bola Ige. Stay with us. On this day in history, in 1947, the transistor was demonstrated. Let me give you details. The transistor was successfully demonstrated on December 23, 1947 at Bell Laboratories in New Jersey. Now, the lab is the research arm of the American Telephone and Telegraph, AT&T. It's being called the most important innovation, should we say invention, of the 20th century. There are key names, three individuals were credited with the invention of the transistor. There are William Shockley, John Bardeen, and Walter Brattain. These men worked together, but there is a little twist to the story. Shockley was reported to have called the invention, we'll get back to that story in a bit, a magnificent Christmas gift. It was just 2 days to Christmas, as at that time, 1947. The reason for the development of the transistor was to replace the vacuum tubes, which were said to be bulky, unreliable, and consumed too much power. Now, these three individuals, like I said, played different roles. While Shockley he had been working on this for close to 10 years, the other two gentlemen came in just 2 years, and it shocked him when they were able to come up with a key component in the transistor built-up that he had failed to come up with. He was the supervisor on that project as well. He went on to design another type of transistor called the bipolar transistor, which had superior point of contact to the one that was originally brought together. Today, basically, the transistor radio laid the foundation for what we have today. The radio, the television continued to evolve over time. That's basically what happened today in history. The first rollout, the first commercial rollout was actually in 1954. Portable radio, transistor radio was put out in 1954. Now, I would like to also mention here that the scientist, Shockley, tried to form his own company, but that failed because of his penchant, so to speak, to publish the pay slip of his employees. He had this, sense of he was a difficult person to work with. I'm bringing this up because we know that sometimes all these geniuses, they're weird people. They sometimes you cannot understand them, but they're geniuses. Yeah, the way their mind work is not as normal as other people. So in that sense, he kind of weirded them out so much that they had to leave him and go work with other people. I had to mention that aspect. But today, what we're talking about today in history is that the fact transistor was successfully demonstrated in 1947 by Bell Laboratories. That's an arm of the American Telephone and Telegraph. I don't know if you have something to add to that.
No, I mean, I'm just, every time I hear things like this, I'm always very thrilled about how far back, there were, all these, inventions and the work that was done to give us the world that we live in today, was done. These are, in the 40s and the 50s, we've spoken about things, in 1910, 1903, when the Wright brothers, had their first flight. So it's always very, very thrilling for me seeing how far back.
We are so lucky in many ways.
Yes, we are.
So lucky. We have such huge advantage to people. Adam and Eve, for instance.
I always wonder, what I would have been able to invent. If I was an inventor, what is that thing that...
Well, you don't know because you didn't live in that time.
And I mean, even now, there has to be something.
Well, we've been too, how do I put it? We've been too spoiled. So but we still have people inventing. After all, people worked on this vaccine. We didn't have coronavirus, and amazing human beings came up and put their intellect together.
When I was younger, I used to, wonder if I could invent some type of software that you can get food off the TV, So if you're watching, a television program and it has really good burgers and sandwiches and all that,
I could invent stories. Maybe I still would write someday. I would invent stories off the top of my head. I'll tell you fantastic tales. You won't believe it.
All right. Today in history also, December 23rd, it was a Sunday evening and a very sad one in Nigeria's history. In 2001, the world was still, and I think also Nigeria was still, trying to understand what had happened on the 11th of September with the World Trade Center terrorist attack. Chief Bola Ige was assassinated today. He was a Minister of Justice and Attorney General at the time under former President Olusegun Obasanjo's government. He then, of course, joins the long list of political assassinations in Nigeria. Delegiwa in 86. We have, of course, Alfred Rwani in 95, Kudirat Abiola in 96, Abiola himself in 98, Barnabas Igwe and his wife in 2002, Harry Marshall in 2013. The late Chief Bola Ige joined that long list of assassinations and unsolved murders in Nigeria's history. There was a lot of conspiracy theories, suggesting what had happened and why it was so easy, for his life to be taken that way. Wole Soyinka, not long ago, also, made certain statements saying that the Obasanjo government hid and protected the killers of Chief Bola Ige. There's also numerous narrations, that may suggest the reason why he was, or the reason he was assassinated. There's people who say
a tussle
that
between him and his deputy and his party at the time.
First of all, he had just
resigned.
He had just resigned I think about a week or 2 weeks before, as Minister of Justice. He attended resignation. There were insinuations that he maybe wanted to tidy up the Alliance for Democracy and maybe run in 2003 for president. So that one was one theory. There was another one about the Iola Omishore and Bisi Akonde tussle. It was an Osun State battle. Bisi Akonde was governor of Osun State at that time, and both of them were having issues. Iola Omishore was meant to be impeached by the Osun State House of Assembly at that time. And then people wanted Bola Ige, because of the personality that he had, to take sides with Iola Omishore, but he didn't. And then there was some anger because, Omishore was an Ife man. And so there was that. A week before he was assassinated, he had attended the chieftaincy title being given to the wife of Olusegun Obasanjo, former president. And at that event, he was attacked. He was assaulted. His glasses were knocked off. He was his cap, I think, was also hit off. And
sometimes
he was really lucky to make it out of there.
And look somebody straight in the, and your hand doesn't fall, like it doesn't go weak. Because this is a fellow human being. You know that if you touch that person, blood will spill. I mean, sometimes you wonder, are we really human beings, or we're just a misengineering that came to be, that is not the original concept of humanity that was actually made?
It is popularly said that the heart of man is and completely very wicked.
It's amazing, really.
It's not shocking, seeing that people would kill for money. It's not shocking to hear that people would. I mean, there are robbers who rape, there are robbers who kill.
All right, let's celebrate the man for in the 1 minute that they just told us that we have left. Let's celebrate.
He was one of maybe the world's finest orators. If you ever got to listen or to watch Bola Ige speak, there was always the silence that you would never imagine, just hearing him speak. And it's one of the things that he was very well known for. He was also described as maybe Yoruba's finest statesman and politician after Awolowo.
One of the founding members of the Afenifere group. Yes, and we also know that he fought, that's the part that I really must mention here, even though it's now a law in Nigeria. He fought the Sharia law at the time when he came up, and he stopped the execution of a woman who was accused of adultery. They were supposed to stone her to death. Those are some of the things that he did, and he was quite vocal when it comes to the issue of racism. We know that he was part of countless organizations that fought against racism in his time. The sad thing is, successive governments have come. At some point, there was so much noise. We're going to get to the root of the killing of this man. It's now 19 years. And next year, it will be 2 decades that this man was taking away from us.
It really just reminds you, when people say that, when things like these happen, the government definitely has a hand in it or knows about it. You can't argue with statements like that. And if you also remember, in 2001, after he was killed, former President Obasanjo also, sent, Nigerian security agencies to quell any type of uprising or riot or protest, against his death. Till date, still nobody has been found guilty.
Well, let me quote somebody that says it will be a coup de grace if the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, they still have at least 3 years and counting to go to get or start a real investigation into the demise of these key personalities, Kudirat Abiola, Funshaw Williams,
Harry Marshall, there's so many of them.
So many other names. I think some people even added Delegiwa to the
Yeah,
to
as
the
far
mix,
back as 86,
you know.
it was maybe the
yes,
first.
Investigation needs to continue, and that's why conversations like this today in history is relevant. We remind ourselves of some of the things we're missing, some of the important information that we need to have so we can chart a better future for ourselves. Thank you very much for humoring us most of the time with Today in History. We'll be back in a bit to talk about the new UK variant of the COVID-19, which apparently has been in this country since August. We'll be talking about why it was not made known until now. Stay with us.
We can't talk about education reform if we don't decolonize our education system.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize. Because it's just cultural. And I think it's just human nature.
They stop paying us salary. I don't like remembering it.
I am angry at Nigeria. I am angry at this government which seems to be letting us down. I am angry at us as a people.
In the process of struggling to free myself from his hand, he tore my pants and he raped me.
Yes, I commit the offense truly.
Young girl, do you know where you are going? I say, I'm going to America. I say, now so that they talk, you are going to Libya. Which America?
As it then do mark our place, some people they die now.
This is Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
He suffered equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them.
If you don't talk, then go beat you.
Now 2,500 they pay.
A lot of the jobs that exist today will not exist in the next 10 years.
10 years.
When I see people today shouting, we're not too young to run, we are ready to run. Ready to run to where?
The people of excellence are, to a certain extent, being held ransom by idiots and bandits.
Once you are in government, you believe everything you do is
right. And once you are in opposition, everything the government does is wrong.
And so it's time for us to take over power.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Vicky November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Welcome back from to the breakfast. Still more to share with you this morning, and we're getting into another conversation entirely. The scientists at the Redeemers University have announced that the UK's new COVID-19 variant has already been in Nigeria since August. And of course, we have invited two medical practitioners to have a conversation about this and, basically share with you as much as possible why this is a big story. We'll say good morning via Zoom to Dr. Chima Onoka. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Thanks for your time.
Good morning. I'm glad to be here.
And of course, Dr. Tuyi Mabawondu, thank you so much also. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Merry Christmas.
Same to you.
Yeah, I'll start with you in studio. Are you shocked that we've had this with us and we're just getting to know because of the UK case?
I'm not shocked. Virus undergoes what we call constant mutation. Some of those mutations might be actually to attenuate, reduce their strength or increase their strength. It's just that chance. And then virus will not say that because I'm in UK and I'm in Nigeria, I will mutate. So the key issue is just for us to identify whether we're now having the mutant strain. And of course, where does this lie? It lies on our ability to do those research, those findings, to continually engage our environment and those germs and see whether we're having mutant strain or no mutant strain. It becomes a big issue. Why? Because we don't know if these new mutant strains are going to be quite virulent, very damaging. We're having a big issue in our hands. It can affect whether the drug is going to touch them. We don't know what it's going to mean for the vaccines being developed if you have this mutant strain, especially if the mutation occurs at the pili, those spikes that allows the virus to enter a human being. So, it's good for us to know so that at least we can, create the necessary response to those mutations and be aware that mutation is with us and will keep happening.
All right, let me speak with Chima Onoka now. The idea that it has been in Nigeria since August, even if now we're talking about it because of the conversation from the UK, does this in any way tell us a story about how resistant Nigerians are still to this new variant? If you look at our fatality rate since August, has it changed? Is this something that we should be worried about?
It's been in Nigeria based on that report, and it's good to know. I think we also need more reports to have that confirmation. It's evidence building up, and we always also look for additional evidence to support that. But in terms of its connection with fatalities, our biggest challenge is that, we still have that situation that autopsies are not done. Anybody that you ask from verbal autopsies, like, do you know somebody that has died recently? What kind of things happened before then? Will tell you that a lot of people died who they didn't know why and how that happened. But Nigerians can tell, all of that story. But autopsies are not being done. That would have helped us to really say, why are the people who are dying? because it's not the figure of deaths that are out there that talk about the deaths that have happened in Nigeria. So maybe it's an opportunity for us now to really go beyond what we've been doing. And we can't say we were not prepared at all the other time. We are expected to be better prepared now. And it's an opportunity for us to go further to really investigate things. And then, that can help us know what is happening in terms of deaths and all of that.
All right, Dr. Mebawandu, what worries you about the conversation around vaccine? They are saying that this new strain and the vaccine that we have might not be compatible. Does that mean we'll be on the hunt for a new vaccine if this case, the variants become prominent?
Now, let's face it. Clearly, the vaccines that are being used now are classified under emergency use authorization. When a medication or vaccines or medical is classified as emergency use authorization, what it's telling you clearly is that we have not given full approval to this product. But we've seen that the product can actually reduce mortality, the number of people that are dying, as much as 95% in Pfizer own, and also close to that 95% in biotech, in Moderna own, okay, which have been actually deployed now. Now, let's also remember that in the past, chloroquine was given that emergency use authorization. Now, it's still a long haul. Now, the data are still coming in. The study will still be ongoing. Nobody can specifically tell you now that since there's mutation, then the vaccine will be ineffective. There's no study. We've heard that there's mutation. We've heard that the mutant variant is in Nigeria. We know that there's vaccines being deployed, but I tell you what, nobody as of now can say specifically that the mutant variants will not be respond to the vaccine.
So why do you think our experts are thinking that the vaccine might not be compatible? Because these are people who have
You have to do studies. You see, listen, you might put some conjecture, you might imagine, that's the difficult part of scientific thinking. The scientific thinking means that you have to bring your evidence, you have to adduce your evidence, you must have given the vaccine to people with variants and see that it's not working before you can say that's exactly what it is. And the fact is that if the mutation is not happening at the point of entrance, because those spikes, the crowns, the spikes are what the virus used to enter the respiratory system. If the mutation is not happening at that point, then you may not have that challenge. Because if you look at the vaccine, what it does exactly is to send signal, to make just part of that protein that allows the virus to enter into the human body. And so that it mimics it in such a way that if the virus now enters, the body recognizes it as a dangerous thing and then mobilize body soldiers to go and destroy and fight it. So you have to understand the critical point. Now, even in past viruses like HIV, the mutation can happen at any point in such a way that some drug that uses a pathway to kill them may not affect them, but still some will still affect them. So the mutation is not just that once you have mutant strain, then it becomes a problem. Mutation does not always result into more virulent strain. It can actually be an attenuated strain that is weaker in a way, okay? But it can also be a strain that is going to be more virulent and can be easily transmitted. But data that has come from the UK shows that the new variant they're having is the one that can be easily transmitted. Not necessarily that the vaccine cannot work against it.
All right. I want us to go, to the very beginning of all of this science. Dr. Nonka, quickly share with us why and how do viruses develop new strains? Is there a reason, why it has to always be like this? And is there a possibility that this one would continue to mutate over time and we may just never be able to get a hold of it?
We all struggle for survival, humans, and it's the same way that viruses also struggle for survival. Just like, my colleague said as well. If you throw a virus into a system and you block what it uses to get into cells to cause trouble. It will figure out a way, like we all do, find out another way, reinvent itself, adjust a few things to get into those cells and multiply itself. It's seeking survival. And so the risk for mutation is always there. And the risk that could become a problem at any point in time is there. And so it's for us to keep, working on, gathering data, studying it, working each day to see how it's changing, the ones that we have in Nigeria. And in other places, UK is 6 to 7 hours from Nigeria. So it's just over the night while you're sleeping and waking up. Somebody that has left London is in Lagos. Not a problem. But these mutations are likely to happen there. And it's more like we're on a marathon, not a 100 meters dash, because it's viruses that are involved. And so, it's just for us to get ready to gather the data and so that it can inform the decision we are making at every point in time.
Data gathering is not one of our very strong suits in Nigeria, but we're hoping to see an evolution with what this pandemic has showed to us. While we're looking for the solutions, I think maybe I should bring this question to you, Dr. Mebolandu. The NDDC has been aware that there is a strain of the virus in this country, and that information was not passed on to the public as should be. They have this PTF briefing all the time. Why do you think this whole thing was shrouded in some secrecy, and why is it becoming public now? Is there something that we are missing?
At the beginning of this pandemic, sometimes last year, late last year, I was in this studio and I emphasized that falsehood is more damaging to public health than even the virus itself. Now, we agree that we mismanaged information. In the public space, when you are dealing with a pandemic or an epidemic, you have to lay your cards on the table, clear and simple. What government has done essentially that actually, giving a lot of challenge to fight against the pandemic is that they chose to monopolize information, okay? Now, at the level of this pandemic, what you do is that you make your locus of information as local as possible. Now, it has to go down to the basic people, and you must conduct yourself in a way that you can be trusted. What has happened is that because of the way the information is managed, we allow a lot of rumors, a lot of lies, a lot of misinformation, disinformation. In fact, to the extent that the challenge of the COVID fight has actually been political and social media. Okay? Now, where some people, religion, political, social media, some people don't believe in it. Religions feel that it's Antichrist. That one feel that it's Bill Gates. So you wonder how we got to this point. Because government is not on top of information management. In public health, you must honestly tell people what
my point actually is, they had this information. Why was it not divulged?
They are the only person that can answer that question. Because, listen, why would they not want to divulge that information? Why would they not want to tell people? So that people can take more the issue of prevention seriously. We're not there in research. We don't have drugs. Remdesivir is very expensive. We don't even to do ordinary testing, and about 900,000 tests in 206 million people. It's not work. Okay.
Okay. What's your take? Sorry, what's your take on this, Dr. Onaga?
A very sensitive question. I think it's good to look at the bigger picture. Nigeria, and it's not about these past few years or today. Nigeria does not have the habit of even trusting what comes from universities, local universities. Not the government, not the people. We don't. And that's sad. We are lucky that there's some information that was published by the Redeemers University, scientists there. If that university was also closed down due to the strike action, it is not going to come. We don't have any sustained investment in the universities to make them feel that they are part of research and part of solutions. There are not solutions here. The Yale discussion we have about vaccines is because Yale is open. Now, we build evidence, and NCDC can have one information, evidence from one source. It may need a second, a third, because this is Nigeria. And trust in that hasn't been there. And you may need a couple of them to really put your foot out there to make very definite statements. So we can, tolerate that. We can say, okay, maybe that's what's going on. But it's a problem that is beyond even them. It's a Nigerian problem. No trust in the universities. Research is not because of our universities. Investment in research in universities is not happening. We can't move forward as a nation without it. We can't solve these kinds of problems that need local solutions, local data, without systematic, sustained investment in the universities that are going to give us information that we'll use to make local decisions.
All right.
And that's the key.
In other climes, the government will be challenged for putting Nigerian lives at risk by withholding information like this. I know, or I keep seeing what foreign media, international media do to the UK Prime Minister, to Donald Trump, almost blaming him for the loss of 300,000 American lives because of the mishandling of the coronavirus in the US. But we're Nigeria, so that very likely would not happen. You earlier were speaking about the mutation of the virus and the reasons why it might change into different forms. One thing that for lack of research, we're still not sure, the reason the mortality rate in Nigeria has been so low, or in Africa has been low. But should we be worried of a possibility of the virus being able to mutate into a form where it now is, or it can survive the heat that they have rumored as one of the things that has saved us in Nigeria? Should we be worried that the virus can mutate into a form where it now becomes completely dangerous to lives here in Nigeria?
Indeed, everyone should be concerned and worried and actually look out for such mutant strains that can be more virulent, that can kill more people, that can be easily transmissible. And that is why, the challenge of how we understand the dynamics of diseases in this country is so important. What I'm thinking is this. We're going to, the Western world, I'm talking about Europe, America, and co., will invariably end up finding a way around this virus, either through vaccine or through some policy initiative, to deal with the virus. Then what will now happen is that the virus will now come and settle somewhere in Africa and become a chronic disease. If you look at it, HIV originated from somewhere. I'm talking about the real pandemic came from somewhere over there. But the thing came, even polio, the thing came, ended in Africa, and became a chronic disease, spiking up and down. At that point, you wouldn't have choice than to take the vaccine, or even you have to get certification of that you are not having COVID to be able to move from Nigeria outside. So until, sincerely, government choose to look at and decide that, well, listen, health is important, education is important, okay? At least, if you want to add a third thing, maybe you say, agriculture, or feeding. Health is important. If you don't put investment in your education, you can't get your health right.
All right. Talking about investment in health and education, Professor Onoka, what actions are you expecting to see? They've already said we've gone back to the place where theaters are not open anymore, restaurants are being shut, churches are told what to do, gatherings have been limited to 50, mandatory use of face masks. what further action do you think government, through the PTF, needs to do now that it has become obvious that information is being withheld?
I think you're repeating the withholding of information.
Yes,
Well,
I mean,
I'm
asking
consolidated.
Yeah, what actions should they take now?
Way.
Yes, it's a different aspect of it.
So, I think the aspect of data collection and analysis, like we need more information about who has even developed some of the antibodies to it. I've heard a bit about some studies that are developing that, they are testing health workers. There's a testing of health workers in some places going on. From some preliminary analysis I'm hearing, like you have in some places like 40% of the health workers having the antibodies already, meaning that, a lot of people have had it and have recovered and have moved on. So, but is all that kind of information that is needed for effectively to inform decisions, to effectively dealing with this. So I didn't tell you, I've been on the platform several times and I've shouted about all the things that I could still shout about. But, late November, I had COVID. I just recovered. I tested negative just a little less than 2 weeks ago. I faced one side of it. Am I scared of another one? No, not scared, but there's always a risk of another one. Because I've had some friends who have tested, some colleagues who have tested twice, who have tested positive twice.
Wow.
So I can call myself a survivor now.
So
and that is something that needs systematic study. It needs information. If we can't, the investment in information now is key for us to move forward effectively.
So in a roundabout way, you've answered the question, saying that government should be a bit more open with information sharing so as to restore some confidence in the process.
It would be great if we find out, if we get to a place where we can trust the PTF and the NCDC.
Their mandate has already been extended. Trust them or not.
I mean, trusting, with them with the information that they...
information generation. Information generation is different from the communication.
Yes.
Okay.
You can only communicate what you generate.
Okay. In 20 seconds, your concluding thoughts.
If you look at the COVID figures that are coming out, 2 or 3 states stands out. Lagos, FCT, and maybe Kaduna. Now, the question is this. Since you don't have the money or even the human resources to do deep scientific research, you can also look at this now. What are the factors in Lagos, in Abuja, and in Kaduna that's actually driving this figure? Because they're like more than half of all the figures. What are the factors? Then how do we now deploy intervention to counter those factors? Okay? These are simple thinking that can really add value to our intervention as we go on. All right.
I wish we had more time. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on The Breakfast this morning. Your time, particularly the both of you, actually, you made an extra sacrifice as well as you, Prof, to be here with us this morning, and we truly appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Same to you, Dr.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Always good to see
pleasure,
you.
Always.
Okay, we will go on a break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about the approval of the NDDC budget for 2020. 10 days to Christmas, to the end of the year. I said Christmas, to the end of the year. We'll be back. Stay with us.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges. The growing youth population with little engagement, that is a ticking time bomb. We are a blessed people with diverse culture and highly cerebral minds who have a lot to say. And yes, we are talking. It is important we drive the right conversation that informs, inspires, influences thoughts and action. If we say there's beauty in our diversity, then let us embrace our diverse culture. We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation, as we are the hope for the future. Yesterday's conversations shape today. What are you saying to shape your tomorrow? We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you.
First point of accountability is asking questions.
Hello and welcome to Plus Sports and Plus TV Africa. I am Udoka Njoko.
Hi everyone, welcome to Plus Training.
You cannot continue to recycle